Again, welcome everyone to start of our budget meetings. These are special meetings as they can go on for quite a while, and appreciate everybody's attendance, interest in things. We mostly have tonight's agenda is a special meeting, which is just to do with the budget, and we have representatives from our highway and transfer station here. We will be talking about the capital budgets and some other department budgets as we go along. We're trying to do experience-based budgeting, which is budgets that reflect our new reality that we're finding ourselves in. In other words, what issues are coming up? What things are we finding ourselves having to spend more time and energy on? And maybe some things we can spend less time and resources on. So we want our budget to be realistic. We understand that the property taxes are significant for people in town. We try to keep our expenditures down to a minimum, but have to increase it where necessary. And again, we're hoping to get a draft of this budget finished by and presented to the Board of Finance by the middle of February. We'll probably talk about it again next week at our regular meeting, and may have to have a special meeting to finish everything the second week in February. So, and then from when we present to the Board of Finance, then they can modify it. We can modify it for March and April as they go through the budget season. And this finally winds up in front of a town meeting in May for town meeting discussion and approval. So that's what we're starting tonight. And again, thanks to folks for attending. And I have had the opportunity to talk to Jim and Ted and Will last week independently. And then again, thanks to Barbara Herbst, our finance department, who has put these numbers together for us. And when we get our draft together and finished, we will have it up on the website for people to look at. We're not putting probably the numbers up tonight just because they may change before we present it to the Board of Finance. We try to get the request in from the departments and see how everything lines up, what the totals are, what the increases are, and then we may have to make some adjustments ourselves in addition to what Board of Finance might do. So, and I think John has some of the worksheets that we'll be working off of. And so what I'd like to do is start with the highway department, which is on page 2 of our draft, our worksheet. So I don't know, John, can you put that up? Okay, so we're...
Which page again?
Page 2 would be great. Yeah, there you go. So highway department budget, as you can see, this is what we call the operating budget. This is things we use year in and year out to keep everything going. And I'd like to welcome Jim. I know Jim's been spending some hours trying to keep our roads in good condition. Recently, we've had a couple of pesky storms, more on the way maybe this weekend. So we're putting them on first in case something happens tonight. We're supposed to get a little dusting. So anyway, Jim, do you have any overall things to report to the board, or
No, I think overall we're doing pretty well. I'm worried about the increase in the fuel um, for heating the garage, fueling our trucks, grease, oil. Um, I'm seeing some things I need to buy more of because of the supply uh, chain is kind of difficult these days. So um, just trying to keep up on that to make sure certain things that we need to keep the trucks running we have in stock, especially in the wintertime. So, but my concern right now is basically fuel. I think everything else we can handle pretty well.
Okay. So again, Priscilla or Janet, if you have any questions, we go down through all these lines. You can see um, they've been generally either held the same or slightly increased. If we just start with garage heat, um, and just so everybody knows what information we're dealing with, we have 4 columns of numbers. The far left-hand side, if we go, our budget is made up of dozens of lines, but just starting at the highway department, line 62, I believe it's shown there, garage heat. The first number, which is 6883, that whole column is last year's actual column. So you can see those numbers aren't necessarily even or rounded up numbers. And then the next column is anticipated expenses. Barbara's taken a stab at trying to figure out how much we're going to spend this year. So the actual numbers on the far left-hand column are the amount we spent last year for the budget year that ended January 31st. The next 2 columns are this year's budget and an anticipated number of how we're doing and how we'll do towards the end of the year. And then the second column, which says $7,000, that's our budgeted number for this year. Barbara says for the heat, based on the bills we've gotten now, we should come in somewhere close to that because we capped the price. And again, we do have a cap price, which is slightly more for this year, so we should be okay. But again, we know fuel oil prices have gone up substantially since this year. So do you think we should increase that somewhat more, Jim? From $8,000, we did increase a little bit, but
I think we can, and on on our end at the shop, we're trying to keep plan when our trucks go out so that we're not opening the doors and cooling the shop down as often when it's really cold. So we have vehicles outside to stay outside. We're trying to use those more on the really cold days, just to try to, like I said, reduce heat loss in the building. It's a small step, but it may pay off in the end. That's pretty much all I can do on trying to reserve some oil usage, so to speak.
yeah. So then our utility rates haven't gone up quite as much as the other ones, but we did increase that by 10% up to $6,000. So we should be okay with that. I did notice a typo there where we only gave you $1,000 for supplies, where it was 10,000 in this year's budget and 12,000 actual before. So I think that should actually be 11,000, not 1,000, because I don't think we get very far with the price of everything today. So was that your recollection too, Jim, that we went up to 11 or something?
Correct.
Right. And just so everybody knows that these lines that are in sort of a white background, if we go over, say we use more fuel and less supplies, we can shift things between the 2 lines without having to go to the Board of Finance, as long as we don't exceed that bottom line, which is highlighted in black. So as long as we don't spend more than $484,820, this year for the highway department will be considered in budget. And of course, if we have an emergency or we have a bad storm year or we have things come up, we can, of course, go back to the Board of Finance and we can go back to the town meeting if we need a lot of money. So I'm just trying to give people some basic procedures of how our budgeting process works. And the next line there, small equipment, seems to be like a solid number. Contracted services, we kept $30,000 as a number, and you can see again how much years can vary from year to year. We look like we'll be able to keep it in that amount. I think that's mostly road sweeping and other equipment we hire in. But what we did, you can see last year's actual was $58,000. So that's a substantial variation over budget. But the reason that was so high was we had to grind, I think it was $25,000 worth of debris from Storm Isaias. Might not be pronouncing that right. But anyway, it was the storm, the big one. And so we contracted a group to do that. And Barbara and Jim have been working since that time with FEMA to try to get reimbursement. So we may get, I think, 75% of that back eventually, Jim.
Correct.
Something like that. So that's, we all say, what did we spend that money on? Well, that's why that amount went up so much that year. But we still didn't go over budget because we have been having a strategy to have our own sand and salt. In years past, when we used a lot more salt, we would commonly go over $100,000. But now that we're using a lot of our sand, we're able to keep it under the $68,000 budget for snow removal. So that gives us a little bit of latitude. So we were able to absorb all that tree stump grinding without going over budget. And now we'll get some reimbursement. The rest of the things are fairly small, but pretty straightforward. The OT labor expense, that's the amount we spend on the overtime for the regular crew. And then we do hire in people, mostly to plow snow in big storms. And so that's temporary labor amount that you'll see in line 72. The labor expense of $281,000. That's for the 4 regular crew members, including Jim, and the other 3 members are under contract that we renegotiated this previous year. And so they are in line for a 3% pay increase for the coming year. Fuel and oil, we did, as you can see, that's line 73. We did spend $28,000 last year when the prices were low. What's your thought on it for this year, Jim? Do you think 35 is enough to do?
I think it is, yeah. A lot of our trucks are all serviced outside of the shop. This is just for breakdowns, for maintaining oil levels in the crankcase, servicing the pickup truck and our small trucks. So a majority of our oil is done during service time at JW Tractor or Murley and Torrington.
Right, and our
oil down.
Our trucks are all diesel, pretty much, except for the pickup, I guess. Highway signs, also a maintenance item, but it seems like that amount should be enough to get us going. And again, we've had a number for road materials, $20,000. Last year we spent $19,000 and change, so that seems like a decent number. Although I imagine the prices of pipe and stuff is going up too. have you seen any jump in the sand prices or gravel prices from the local gravel pits, or is that sort of staying the same?
I haven't. I haven't actually bought any, so I don't know what the current prices are. So we've been able to handle everything in house with our gravel banks. So so I'm not sure what the going rate for certain materials are.
How we look for this year? Do you think we'll be able to get through this winter season with our sand, or will we have to buy some in, do you think?
I think we're going to be okay. I plan to, if we get into March and we get nice days, I may start screening just to replenish if we need it. But I think we're going to be okay. Okay.
Great. And then tree maintenance, of course, we have with the ash blight and gypsy moths and storms, we're having an increasing amount of dead and dying dangerous trees. We've been able to keep up with it pretty well. Any thoughts on the tree maintenance program? We got it under control. Still working with the power company to take down some trees.
Correct. Yeah. And we've been able to handle the trees that are being called in. We're able to handle in a pretty timely manner. It's difficult getting people because everybody's pretty stretched out, the tree crews. But I think we're doing well there. And my goal is to at least have a tree crew in town twice a month, at least.
Yeah. No, that's good to have that all set up. So any question from the board for Jim on highway operations?
I just have a quick question.
Sure.
So there's let's see, which one was it? Sorry. Under supplies. What falls under supplies? I mean, that sounds kind of generic. Are there big things under there? And should we consider, sorry about that, should we consider having a budget closer to what we used this year and not decrease it? Was there something that was specific under supplies that needed to be, that needs a bigger budget?
Just one thing, I'll let Jim answer too, that $1,000 is a typo. So it should be 11,000, not 1,000.
Yeah, right. Yep, I do.
So we're thinking that's 11,000, not 10,000. And
okay, is that enough, Jim, or should we spend, or would we spend closer to the 12?
I'm kind of set in my way with where it's currently set.
Okay.
You know how it is every day. You kind of do your usual routine, and
of course,
it seems to be kind of we seem to be doing okay with it.
Okay.
We got into a lot of buying for COVID, masks and gloves and disinfectants. So last year was kind of a little bumpy ride on the supplies.
Okay. Okay. If you're happy, I'm happy, Jim.
Oh, thank you. And also, Gordon, if I could back up to highway signs, did we bump up to 2,500 on highway signs?
Yeah.
The other day when we spoke.
Yep. It says 25.
Yeah, in line 74, going up to 2,500. Yeah. We're up to 2,500. Yeah.
I deal with companies that a lot of it is freight. And when you're ordering 12-foot posts, galvanized posts, a lot of it can come as quite a bit of weight. So I buy more at a cheaper price. So that one order here of $2,700, that was just one order. So because most of it was freight, I'm like, well, if it's all coming, I have to pay the freight. I might as well make it worth my while. So I want to get as much on the truck as I can afford to. So if I could bump it up a little bit, that would make it a little more easier for me in that line.
You want to go up more than 2,500 or?
Oh, just to the 25.
Okay, got it. Good. And again, we do have things that don't go according to plan. Occasionally we have motor problems or whatever, and the repair. The next line down is vehicle repair. That's, I mean, that and the weather are sort of big variables. But again, we try to have a preventive maintenance program and get everything maintained and do preventative maintenance as much as possible. But our feeling has been with the Board of Finance, I think we know Jim is pretty frugal with his expenditures. And if something happens, whether it's a bridge or a truck or a storm or something, that, you know, the town does have reserves in order to meet those emergencies. But we sort of try to keep the budgeting, you know, moderate and not budget for all the worst case, but more what we feel the average is going to be during the year, although we can never predict things. But we've gotten a pretty good groove down. I think as a town, we spend less on some of these things per mile and per storm than other towns do that would say use pure salt to do their roads. So again, thanks to Jim for trying to keep things financially under control there as well as safe. So is there anything else about these operating budgets? We can go, if there's no other questions about that. And again, we're at the start. So if there's anybody has questions that come up, you know, ongoing, we can always get more answers or clarifications. But if you now can go to the last page, John, it's the capital projects fiscal year group. And there it is. Okay.
Sideways.
So how's everybody's head? Oh, look at that. Thank you, John. So we don't have to strain our necks going sideways. So this is our capital projects, which is major things that are over, you know, big ticket items that cost more than $10,000 and last more than several years are called capital projects. And the thing about capital projects is that these can go, if we don't spend it all in 1 year, can be carried over from year to year. So there's ongoing balances in a lot of these accounts. There's a detailed account that goes on for 5 pages. If the board wants to see more details as far as how we spent money in the previous year. But this is sort of a good summary. And Barbara has some notes on the bottom of the page from last year. So anyway, taking it from the top, so the school, if we go back up to the top there, John, the school has their own capital budget that is mostly to keep, you know, the school in good condition, and they'll talk about that at the right time. We have highway equipment, which is spelled out in our capital budget 5-year plan. And so if you look at the second column from the right, this is what where it says proposed 2023. This is known as fiscal year 2023 because the second half of it is in 2023. So we're talking about the budget goes from next July 1st for the following year. So our big things as far as Jim is concerned is the highway equipment. And again, there's, if you look, we're proposing $100,000 for the budget we're crafting now. And there's, if you look to the far right column, that will tell you what the balances are for these various accounts going forward. So obviously the big ones have the most money, you know, and there is $125,000 in highway equipment, which is, I believe, for truck 9, which is 15 or more years old. be 16 by the time we replace it. So that's our big push, is to get another replacement major plow truck. So am I right with that, Jim?
Correct. That truck's actually a 2002 that's being replaced.
Oh, so we're 20 years old.
Correct.
Time flies.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, and it's well used, well worn, well serviced.
Still working. The only fear, and we see it every night on the news, is the shortage of vehicles. So
right.
I don't know. I hope there's no price increases. That things are kind of, what we're used to. Next, July, when we start to think about buying one, but I think hopefully everything works out well.
Yeah. So maybe what we could do is, once we get a thumbs up from the Board of Finance, we could, talk to some dealers, get some specs out there, get a sense of where the truck market is. But that would be our major equipment purchase, and we've got all our equipment on a rotation. So our goal is to spread it out, so we don't have to buy everything in a short period of time, that we spread it out over a 15-year cycle, and keeping everything in good repair. So again, that's any questions on the highway equipment from the board? The next thing going down, you can see building upgrades. Just so everybody's here. That's another one of our big capital items. You can see on the right-hand side, there's $220,000 in that line right now. And about half of that is obligated to upgrade the transfer station. So we're ready to go on that. We've got the engineering back, got the contractor. Saw him last week, ready for as soon as the weather breaks, and starting on that. So again, the $150,000, our next probably big project is to hire somebody to look at the town hall, the stone building that really hasn't been renovated since it was built in 1906, and certainly has a bunch of things that could be done, that have to be done as far as is repair. And there's a bunch of, I think our goal would be to hire an architect who specializes in old buildings, and especially old stone buildings, and give us some ideas on how maybe to make it, more maintenance efficient. Not that we're going to change much of the architecture, which is, it's unique, I guess, good word for it. But and it's served us well again. But there are things that definitely need to be done, and things that we probably can have options to do to keep it all going for another 100 years. So anyway, that's town buildings, the pipeline, and Jim has mentioned about maybe upgrading the town garage, would be like one of the next things we also could definitely use some look at. And maybe, Jim, why don't you just talk to the board and people about differing needs of housing equipment, and trucks are getting bigger and not fitting through our, an ongoing problem is our garage was built, I think, in the 1950s, and trucks were much smaller then. And now the trucks that we're using are much bigger. So we remember 30 years ago or something, we had an elaborate program to raise the doors, but even those doors are small by today's standards. So
correct. Yeah, the building out back, the metal building, we call it cold storage building. That's actually our most efficient building for getting trucks in and out of, because high doors, wide doors. We all know the trucks, 30 years ago were a lot smaller. I don't even know if you can buy one that small anymore to do the type of work that's required. It's just a design that they have today. So, we have to, to get them into our current main building, they can't exceed 10 feet 2 inches in 2 bays. And then they have to be, I think, just less than 10 feet to get in the other bays. And I think the smallest for height that we can get a truck is right around 10 feet 2 inches. So the next new truck will probably have to be kept outside in the cold storage building. It won't be able to fit indoors. On the I guess it would be the west end, the 2 bays on the west end. Looking down the road, there's probably something someone can do with the roof to raise, put a different roof on it and raise those bays. It's something that's probably at some point in the future going to be discussed. And then maybe it's a beautiful building out back. Maybe somewhere down the line, someone can insulate it and make it functional year round. But it takes, someone with that type of knowledge to put all the pieces together. So also another plus I think would be surveillance cameras. I kind of, it's kind of a irky feeling to have that, but there's so many catalytic converters being stolen off of school buses and that kind of thing. It's a new day and age now. You're seeing more and more of it. It might not hurt in the future to put something up just to protect ourselves a little bit. And that's kind of all I have.
So on the surveillance camera, Jim, do you, because we do have money. I mean, I know we put some down at the firehouses, and there wasn't a major expense. Do you want to just look at that? Because we could do that with some of the money we already have for town building upgrades. Because again, I think that's sort of what we've gotten to at this point. Because it is sort of an open area on the weekends because people are driving through all the time.
We have had things in the past taken. We had a lot of tires taken out of the cold storage building. We had parts taken off of a machine that was parked outside. So it has happened. And that was, 10, 15 years ago. A friend of mine actually caught a guy today, broad daylight, taking a catalytic converter off a car. He heard a noise and they were able to arrest the person. But it's something to think about,
Yeah, maybe we can work on getting something set up for the spring or something. Okay, great. So any questions for Jim from the board? So hearing none, we'll just go with these numbers for now. And again, it's we'll keep on working on some of the details and change some of that supply line back to where it should be. But I think we're in pretty good shape. And again, some of these, what about the road improvement, Jim? What do you have planned? We have $300,000. What do you have planned for next coming year for road improvements?
Want to do a stretch of Popple Swamp Road and basically on both ends of it, on the Pierce Lane end and down on the Cornwall Bridge side. The middle seems fine with paving. I want to pave Jewel Street and parts of Valley Road and possibly Essex Hill if the money allows us.
Okay, and what areas are you planning to resurface then? If we're paving those, what areas would be what would be the rotation on the resurface?
Do you mean for oiling or for
oiling? Yeah,
oil?
we don't use oil anymore. We say resurface.
Oh, chip sealing.
Yeah, chip sealing.
That year right now, what we're going to actually be discussing next month will be East Cornwall section.
Okay.
So Great Hill, College Street. I think I took some of that money last year to pave Town Street.
Right.
So also the village is scheduled to be oiled, but what I want to do is just crack seal the village so we don't have any issues with dust, and we'll possibly go that route and crack seal.
Okay.
Really congested areas, and we'll try to tie all that together and see what we come up with. But right now it's College Street, Great Hill, Great Hollow for oiling.
Any thoughts on guardrails?
Yeah, there's sections here and there on Scoville Road by Scoville Sleighs. I want to take up the old wooden guardrails that are there, small sections.
Yep.
I think it's probably, I haven't measured it out yet, but I think it's 50, 60 feet, if that.
Okay.
So that's all pretty much tied into just small areas. There's an area on Ballyhack Road where there's a brook that runs through under the road, and on the outlet side of that is a very steep drop. I may look into that, possibly putting maybe 30 feet of fence there. The speed limit's only 15, so it may not justify having to do that, but we'll look into it and see where we go there. And then mostly I need to just get around town, find some time to get around town and do some surveys.
Okay, good. So we'll leave that open at this point.
I think the 10,000 a year.
Yeah.
We just did both ends of Ballyhack Road.
Yeah.
A part of a state road that was kind of a situation we had, and I think we spent 45,000. I haven't gotten the final bill on that, but so we'll.
And what do you feel is a good number then?
I think the 10,000 a year.
Okay.
Would be good.
Yep. All right. Good. Well, we'll go with those numbers then. Any other questions, thoughts from the board? Okay. All right, Jim, thank you. And we know where to find you if we have any more questions.
Oh, you're welcome. Okay. Have a good night, everybody.
Great. Thank you. All right. All right. So shifting gears now. I see Ted is here. Not sure if Will is here or not. But anyway, Ted, you're there. I think you're still muted, Ted, if you're there and we're looking at.
All right. How's that? Am I unmuted now?
You're all set. You're all loud and clear.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Good. So then we're moving around a little bit and we're on to page sanitation recycling starts at the bottom of page 5. Yeah, great. Yeah, so again, as I said before, based on our experience, we are seeing a steady amount of activity at the transfer station, increased over what it was 2 years ago. So pandemic goes up and down, the amount of solid waste seems to be still at that increased level that we saw starting in March 2020. Combined with that is the news that we've had of the Hartford incinerators going offline the end of June. Solid waste will be shipped out of state. And again, we're working on regionally a solution, trying to get, for example, perhaps maybe some of the federal infrastructure money to get the towns to agree to try to have the state apply the federal infrastructure money to an in-state solution for our solid waste. And there's debates on what's the best strategy, of course. But anyway, I think all municipalities are taking the increased cost of doing this. And of course, with the increased cost of fuel, that's going to make all these hauling increases more. We have been working with some of our area regional partners at other transfer stations to come up with some ideas of how do we reduce the amount that gets thrown away and what we do with it. There is some ideas on composting. And so if we start off on page 5, we go into this line. The salaries again are determined by what the board gives all the town employees. Probably we are looking at something like 3%. We agreed to increase some of the supplies from $6,000 to $7,000, and that's on line 163. So again, the far right-hand column, which says $7,000 in line 163, is what we're proposing for next year, and the $6,000 is what is the column of what we're doing this year. So again, if you go down to the next level, we have MSW, which is Municipal Solid Waste hauling. That's just hauling it. We hire Paines to haul it from Cornwall to the Torrington transfer station, where then it goes into Hartford. Now, whether that changes and it goes somewhere else next year, we don't know, but we probably will still be able to use that transfer station. So that number shouldn't be affected by Mira's incinerator problems. Anything you want to add, Ted? I mean, we'll go through all the lines where there's some other substantial increases, but any other thing? I mean, we went over things, I think, pretty well. And again, if we see spikes, we do have a contingency fund that we can use if all of a sudden something costs more than we budget.
Yeah, I think we're hoping that, we come up with a mirror contract or whatever is going to happen with that, something that everybody's going to be able to handle. So a lot still up in the air yet, but I think everybody's starting to work on it. So, I think our numbers are good. We just got to hope everything comes in. The only thing I'm a little concerned about the site testing, and Gordon, we had talked about that.
Yeah, I have that I have a question mark. I've got to figure out what a real number is on that. So we'll leave that with a question mark, and I'll do some homework on that to find out what's a reliable number. Okay. And again, also, we hope, one thing we did talk about is once we renovate the office and building and paint everything, we are going to also include in part of that regrading or whatever we want to call it, the site. So the area around it will be resurfaced or regraded or whatever else. And so hopefully we won't have a lot of building repairs because we have a new building. We did put the mirror contract up by 10%, which seems to be about what they're talking about for next year. But we'll know more. That's a good example. And we might as well have that discussion now. Some towns are going out on their own and contracting with trucking companies to truck their garbage to wherever, Ohio or something. The thought is up here around the area Selectman is to stay with Mira, and whatever they propose for the next 5-year contract to haul it, we'd be part of that, thinking that I'm leery of going off on our own tangent, hauling garbage a long distance. Just, I think we have much more clout if we get in with a larger group, just thinking, with the price of fuel, or this is an unknown thing, or somebody in Ohio says our landfill's closed, good luck. I'd rather be part of a group that works on it than an individual thing. So we're supposed to be getting information soon from Mira to a new contract that will cover this next period of time. And I believe most towns in our area are sticking with them to try to get through this period of time. Some other people are braver or something, doing it their own deal. I think also a lot of other areas have curbside pickup and don't have transfer stations. So it's already going to go in a garbage truck anyway. So they have somewhat of a different setup than what we have here. And also places that have a lot of commercial garbage and solid waste are in a much different situation. If there's a lot of either commercial buildings or institutions in town. I heard from, Litchfield, for example, is spending $600,000. Their contract with Mira is $600,000 a year, and ours is 30. So again, Litchfield does not have 20 times our population, but they're getting substantial amounts of garbage from their commercial. They have serious commercial buildings there and institutional things. So it's a whole different setup. So you can see how it's playing out differently depending on the size and scale and composition of your municipality. And let's see, so we did increase that by 10%. We also upped the bulky waste amount by about 15%. The thought with that is that there is a lot of, construction going on, small construction, large construction, but especially small remodeling stuff. And we're just seeing a lot of, more loads of stuff going in and out of the transfer station in our bulky waste department. And again, that is not sent to the incinerator. So we shouldn't see the tipping increases we're seeing with the MSW, but we're just seeing more activity, which in the long run will be paid for by, the people improve their houses, and there will be an increase of the assessments or whatever. So it's a good thing to have construction going on, not a bad thing. And sometimes we have to pay a little bit more for the process. Hazardous waste. Again, Ted, did you want to speak to that a little bit? We had a busy year for household hazardous waste last year, but we think because the amount of real estate, there was a lot of houses sold and cleaned out, whereas that's calmed down a little bit now. So,
yeah, I think with the amount of people that were in town last year, I think it's starting to settle back, if you will, a little bit. And what I'm hoping is with all the people that were here last year, they went down in their basements and they used that household hazardous waste day to their advantage. So I think that's why we saw the increase by quite a bit last year. And I'm hoping this year it should stay somewhere, what we had for a budget. I think we're coming in pretty good at that. I would like to say a lot of people cleaned out their basements because now they were up and they were looking at it. So I think that ought to scale back just a little bit. We have a new vendor that we signed on with, and they are much more efficient. Costs a little bit more per tag that we get, our permits, if you will, that the people sign up with Jonathan. But they're much more efficient, and it's a very well organized program down there now. So we found out that through COG that if we spend a little more, obviously we get a better product, and that's what we've done down there. But I think for our budget, I think most of the people that had stuff to clean out, they've cleaned it out. So.
Right. And then we did increase the recycling expense budget because we are moving more stuff. So more recyclables. And if we may get a figure on a composting project, and we'll look at that again if we have some firm figures on somebody coming, a company coming to town to pick up some totes with compostable material in them. So if we can get that going this spring, we'll get that going. And then if there is a substantial cost associated with that, we'll plug that in on top of this.
A little something with that, Gordon, if I could. I talked to Brian Bartram, who's in charge of Sharon Salisbury transfer station. He was able to get a hold of Blue Earth, that company that I've seen go right by my house a bunch of times. They're the same price as curbside composting, which he currently uses right now out of Ridgefield. And he said he's paying roughly about $250 a week. Blue Earth said that they would do the same price. And they would actually want to have 4 of our regional transfer stations. If they could get 4 of our regional transfer stations to sign on, they would do it for $75 a week. So we're talking right now. We're gonna have a meeting here pretty soon through Zoom with all the transfer stations together, and hopefully we can get something going. The company out of Pittsfield, Massachusetts, they're a consulting firm. It's CET, Center for Ecotechnology. They're the ones that signed on with the state of Connecticut. Right now, what they're trying to do is, whoops, a lot of feedback. What they're trying to do is find a solution here in Northwest for the composting program. So stay tuned, and we're trying to figure something out with them.
Okay. Yeah, so if we get some firm numbers, we can maybe get them in the budget. Okay, so any questions, Deb?
So are we budgeting for a full year of being able to do the composting then? Are we doing it at the higher price just in case?
Well, so if we did $75 a week, that would be roughly $3,000 a year. And so we would have to, again, is everybody hearing that feedback?
Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like some of these might be bumping into a microphone or something. I don't know.
Huh. So right now we have $3,000 in recycling expense. We upped from 1,000, so we'll have to sort of see where, if the $3,000 would be on top of that or with that or whatever. We'll have to work on that. So let's leave that as a question, but I think we probably should. Maybe what we can do, see, we have this line that says stump grinding, but that really shouldn't be in the transfer station budget. That's a holdover from years ago. So maybe what we can do is replace stump grinding with composting, and then we can put in $3,000 for that. So that would that
So
will
I
get
couldn't
it
hear,
budgeted.
Gordon, I couldn't hear what the alternative is. If we can't get the 4 transfer stations, the noise was kind of going on. It was difficult to hear. What was going to be the price per week if we were going solo?
It would be roughly $275 a week.
Okay, well, that's a big difference.
Yes.
That's a big. That's 12,000 versus $3,000. So how many totes did we get for that, Ted? You know?
That's to start off with 2 totes, 260. I think there's 65-gallon garbage containers, if you will.
Right.
That's for 2 of them.
Right. So again, if we save whatever money goes into those totes, even though it's much more expensive per ton than shipping our garbage to Mirror, that will come out of the Mirror tip fee because it will go somewhere else.
Correct.
There'll be some offset.
Ted, do you have the 4 towns? I mean, do you have a list of towns that would be likely to participate?
Yeah, I do. We're all starting to talk together. We're going to have another meeting here. I actually, once I get back Tuesday, I think tomorrow, Brian was trying to get everybody together and to see what we can do. So you're talking Sharon, Salisbury, you're talking Cornwall, Falls Village, and North Canaan. Those are the 4 towns that are interested, and we definitely got to do something about it. Tracy, I forgot her last name, but
Wilson.
Tracy Wilson, correct. Who's in charge of the Falls Village Transportation. She started the dialogue, and Brian joined in, of course, with his knowledge and everything, going with it. So now we're trying to get it so, it's feasible for everyone.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yep.
I did talk to my friends over in Litchfield too, and apparently they've got an ongoing program too. So if you got a minute, maybe call up the Litchfield transfer station, pick their brain. Because I did.
The one in charge of that over there? Yeah.
I'm not sure who's in charge of that.
All right.
Just talk to them.
Okay.
So anyway, whatever. I think that would be a good thing to pursue. So, okay. Any other thoughts, Ted? Any other questions from the board? I think we're in good shape. Again, this is last year was the biggest increase in our budget, but this is, where we're seeing more people. And again, we're trying to keep our recycling program going so that our garbage quantities are less. So anyway, it's good. And thank you and Will for your work down there. So keeping us going.
I have one more quick question. Ted, I'm just curious, is there some place that we need to do a little bit more work on recycling? Is there something that is costing us where if we did some education that it would save money and be more beneficial for our town?
Well, we can petition the state and have some more money put towards our redeemables, so that way we could keep the glass and keep the redeemable glass. We just don't have room, and we don't have the facilities, and we don't have the manpower to keep up with something like that. We've also had to cut back on some of our plastic that we were recycling at one time, the plastic bag. With just 2 of us there any given day, I can't afford to lose either myself or Will, for 3 hours to bring 60 bags of plastic recyclables. So if we can get a legislator person to get behind us and get, something closer for us to make it more feasible, that'd be something we could really jump on. But, they all say we have no money. or any of that. So we do what we can do. We're still well above what a lot of places are right now for what we do for recycling. We're, you know, some days we're real good at what goes in the MSW. Other days we're not so good. And if you visit the transfer station once in a while, you'll know those days aren't so good. So, but that's okay. We're doing pretty good.
So is the concern that you don't get enough money for those items? Is that, because I'm not sure I'm clear, Ted.
No, we just don't have, I don't have the facilities to store the glass for what it takes to get a return on glass, because they all have to be in cardboard boxes. We get a certain amount per bag for our plastic and for our tin redeemables. For glass redeemables, they don't do that. They actually count individual pieces. So we only get 5 cents per piece. So in other words, if we, brought a whole truckload down, like we were down to Watertown at one time, Fran's cans, a whole load in your truck would only bring you about, $60, where a load in your truck of redeemable plastic or tin cans could, get you $150. So could we do better for the recycling? Sure. If we had more time and more area that we could dedicate to the glass, we could keep that out of the stream of recyclables. But, you just, sometimes you just got to say, well, we're doing the best we can, and that's what we're doing. So, and we're, like I say, we're still well above what some transfer stations do, right?
What would be a good rate then, Ted? If you're gonna talk to legislators about, we need X amount for glass, then what would be reasonable to ask for?
First of all, they got to give more money to the recyclable industry. So in other words, we have to have, they'd have to give those guys that are handling our redeemable bottles and cans, they'd have to give them a little bit better of a return. Instead, they don't get 5 cents as you look at, they get about 2 cents per plastic container or tin can. That return for them to make it profitable would have to be a little bit more. And I think that would help, and you'd see more, more places popping up like there used to be. A lot of them have closed because they just can't make it anymore. They can't do it 2 cents a bottle.
And that's a Connecticut thing, right?
Correct.
Okay. Excellent. Thank you. Sorry, Ted. I didn't mean to drag that out, but I appreciate the information very much.
Yep.
All good questions. And I think they are looking at increasing the types of containers subject to deposit too, which may help.
Yeah, they're talking wine bottles, which
that's
is
big,
good, but we can't. I can't participate in that type of program just because it's glass. I just don't have the time, and I don't have the facility to do that. But the smaller nip bottles, if you will, I guess they're going to make those. They're trying to make
the nips are a big deal.
Yes, and they're going to put a redeemable on that. They're going to put 5 cents on, which is fine. We can get another container and start filling those up. So that'll add up too. But we'll see how far that goes first. If it passes.
Okay. Very good. All right. Appreciate the details.
Yep.
Okay. Any other thoughts for Ted?
No, that's about it.
Okay, good. And we know where to find you. So we have to clarify that. I'll work on a couple of those lines, but I think we're in pretty good shape. Good. Okay. So then that's it for a transfer station. So I'd like to go back to page 1, John, just quickly go through what we've gotten to date. So on page 1, you can see the assessors. the assessor's part there, there's things that haven't been, there's still some blanks there. So that means that Barbara has gone and just filled in the things that are green highlights based on a 3% raise for people. So we haven't actually got a budget yet from the board from the assessor. And also the Board of Assessment Appeals, there is one vacancy on that. So we need to confirm their budget, but I believe that's historically, some years they don't even spend any money. As you can see, there's zero for the actuals because the people didn't, either they didn't meet, or when they do meet, they don't charge the town for their activity. This year we're going through reevaluation, so there will be more activity. And as we know, the long-time chair, Roger Kane, has resigned as he's moving. So we need to strengthen that committee. Board of Selectmen, we did go through our budget last meeting. So that is plugged in at the numbers presented. Similarly, the Board of Finance has adopted their budget, and you can see pretty consistent numbers there. Slight uptick in the town audit. The bottom of the page there, line 55, I think. And again, because of more requirements due to COVID, more grants, more reimbursement programs, there's more financial activity to audit. So that's, I believe, why that went up. But both departments are pretty solid. So then any questions to the board on that, we can flip over to page 2. Let's see, we go on page 2. We've talked to Jim. We don't have any information on Hammond Beach yet, but down in the bottom, we have general insurance and benefits. Again, we get our workers' compensation insurance from KERMA. That's based on the amount of employees we have. For purposes of workers' compensation, the fire department are considered town employees, so they come under this also. So then flipping the page, let's see, we go on to page 81 there, public liability. We have slight increase there, but that also covers our liability, not just in lawsuits, but also if we have damage to property or vehicles. And again, that number looks like the actual is quite a bit less. We do get some rebates from KERMA based on our experience. A major thing for discussion, you can see public or employee health insurance. The full-time employees in the town do get health insurance, and what you will see a substantial increase there because it's one of my big things in this budget is my suggestion is that we offer Heather Deneen, our social service agent, health insurance and categorize her job as a full-time job because especially in the last 2 years, she's on call. She's working most weekends. It's similar to my job that there may not be a lot of time in the office, but there's a lot of time on the road, talking to people, meeting with people, going out there. I know she's working more and more with the school. So that is my thought, is to extend that as, I think also the town should be cognizant that we have a very good social service agent there. She does a lot of work that people never hear about, but I'm aware of. And I don't see our social service caseload decreasing. There's a lot of lingering stress due to the pandemic. And there's a lot of, as we know, the opioid issue is huge in this, part of the state, in this country. And also the mental health issues are huge for people and increasing. So again, I think your caseload is increased to the point where we talk probably at least every other weekend on some issue. So I view her, if she is available to the people of Cornwall on a pretty nonstop basis, I think we should make that move. But again, this is the first you're hearing of it. So, and it is, there is a pretty, that is a substantial outlay for the town. But I think also other towns have lost some of their frontline people, and we have a good team that I think we should try to keep for the long haul. This is probably a good year to do it. So any thoughts on that idea? And again, this is a draft budget. We're gonna.
Whoops.
I have a quick question.
I accidentally muted you, Gordon. Sorry.
Just, we are increasing a lot of lines here, so we do have to total all these up, and we'll have to see where we're at. But I think this is something, as I said, experience-based budgeting. Two areas of increased work is at our transfer station and at our, social service. So anyway, yes,
Gordon?
Jen. Yes.
So is Heather, if Heather's workload is such, then why wouldn't we make her a full-time employee and offer the healthcare benefits so that she could have the time in the budget to fully service the town? Because I think she's doing a fantastic job as well. Would she be open to that, or is that something that we could consider?
Yes, I think, yeah, she, like a lot of people would, yes, she would welcome this getting, this insurance for her family. And I think especially because of the unique situation of that office, that it is a sort of on-call service. And she certainly has, like there's stuff to do at the pantry on the weekends. There's stuff to do at the school, work with the school during the week. These are things that we weren't doing at this level, 4 or 5 years ago. So yes, I think she would welcome this. I think it's a good, gesture for the town. I think it's in the town's interest to do it. I think she does a wonderful job. I would certainly advocate to make her a full-time employee and get her health insurance. You take care of the people who are doing that kind of great work. Correct.
I concur.
All right. Yeah. Priscilla, you see her on our COVID meetings and know how dedicated she is and how she's right there doing.
Absolutely.
And I can say every time, a lot of times I come to her with, I know somebody that's having an issue, she already is aware of it. So that's the kind of proactive, safety net. There's some towns in our area that do not even have a social worker. So it's each one of these towns is their approach to things is different. Every town makes its own decisions, but this town, I think, tries to look after people. So I would also, Gordon and Priscilla, I would also want to know if she needs any increase in her budget to be able to serve the town fully. If there's any
budget lines that are inadequate for her, having had some experience in the job now.
Right. Yeah. And again, her major expense, the major part of that department is funded by the Food and Fuel Fund, which is raising $100,000 a year, which is, probably triple what we were doing even 3 years ago. So that's where most of the expenditures are coming out of. Let's look at that. We haven't gotten her budget request yet, but there is major offline resources being applied to that through the food and fuel. And I know Heather is very good also with spending time to get people on federal and state fuel assistance. So there are other federal and state resources she brings to help people in. And so, okay, so let's put that in. And again, at some point we can have her come in and talk in general terms about the social service thing. But I think that's sort of my I think big initiative for this year, just realizing the workload that people are under, and there's a few people that are really, make things happen for a lot of people, and she's certainly at the top of that list. So
if she's Gordon, if she is full-time, I would want to talk to her also about helping enroll people in healthcare, and that's something that I can show her how to do also.
Okay. Yep. All right. So anyway, so that's that. We've got that's page 3. And what we're going to do is I'm going to take all these consensus decisions that we're making, and then Barbara will then give us at our next meeting an updated budget with these totals in, and we'll probably have more things coming in. We have a lot of going further down page 3, you can see Cornwall Organizations, and we haven't gotten a lot back, but the 2 principal organizations that the town support amongst the dozens that gives money to are the library and the child center. And again, I'll pass on the request for those major, if we have major increased requests, I will pass those on, and I will pass on to the board the letters received from the child center and the library. Let's see. We have Park and Rec coming in with essentially a similar budget to what they had last year. And what I'll do is I'll ask Jennifer Marco, who's also excellent, to give us just an update of how Park and Rec sees the year past and the year forward, because I know they're trying to get more activities going, but they've been hampered somewhat by what. Yeah. So let's see. And again, we might have a report from Heather for you. Okay, so that's social service on the bottom of page 4. Moving over to page 5, we got the registrars coming in with a similar budget of last year. Statewide elections this year, little less. Yeah, be interesting. But I'm sure less candidates on the ballot, but can also, again, get a good turnout in town. And again, with election security being a big issue, good to have people there working, making sure we have fair and safe elections. Turn the page 6. We have Budgets coming in from our hardworking town clerk and tax collector, fairly similar to last year. Thank them for their work, keeping things going. Town office administration, we have various things there that we need to review. But no major changes in operation for the town office. Under the town office, you will see we will be line 197 is substantially higher. The expenses this year, $20,000, as opposed to $4,000 last year, and a budget of $11,000. That shows you how variable that line can be. It's fairly unusual to have something as high as $20,000, but we have had to have more legal advice this year, primarily for the lawsuit against the Planning and Zoning Commission. But there have been other issues too that we've needed legal counsel on. So,
And that's over, right?
That's over. It's over. Yeah. We got 11,000 in the budget. We're estimating we're going to spend about 20,000. So, yeah. So we might, I don't know. It's really hard to budget that. I'd be inclined to hope, maybe it's naive, to hope that we'll have a calmer year. But we do have the next line down is 199, and built into every year, we have a $30,000 contingency fund, which we did not spend all of last year, but we have spent it in the past when we have unanticipated expenses. So that's one of the reasons why we try to budget as accurately as possible. We have a built-in cushion of $30,000 for us to spend. We do subsidize the animal control department by about $3,500 every year. And then down at the bottom of page 7, we'll show you what the pay raises mean. And I would think most towns have been going with about a 3% pay raise. Also, for more information for the board, we do have the COG puts out a salary survey, which will show you for each one of these positions, from assessor to highway foreman to park and rec, social workers, what are towns paying people? And there's a large variety. As I said, some towns do not have various positions, and some towns pay a lot more than other towns. So we'll try to get that to people. We tend to be in the middle on compensation generally. So that's where we're at tonight. I know we've been going for an hour and a half, but I think it's good. Any questions, we'll plug all those numbers in. Everybody comfortable with that for a draft? I mean, we have other things we still have to do. We have the fire department's meeting this week to adopt their budget. And again, there's places we haven't heard from yet. But is there a motion to insert the budgets that we've discussed tonight in this draft to move the process along?
So
Right. Okay, so there's a second.
second.
Discussion? Yes, so anyway, again, we said, it's a work in progress. Appreciate the details and the questions. I think, again, we're trying to balance what the town needs to do with trying to keep the rate of increase modest as we can. Okay, so that is pretty much, any more discussion about the budget? Things we talked about tonight?
Nope.
Nope.
Okay, so we'll get a next draft at our next meeting, and we'll keep on, Barbara will keep out cranking out drafts until we finally adopted a final draft to present to the Board of Finance next month. So I think that's it for the board part of it. Is there any public comments out there from, is anybody still with us? Anybody here? Anybody comments? John, you got anybody raising their hand?
I saw some waves. Bill, Barry, did you have a comment?
I was just waving.
Okay.
Okay. All right. I'll wave back. Thank you, Bill. All right. Anyway, appreciate everybody being there. And again, everybody's hard work to keep the town going. So anyway, without anything else tonight, good to get that work done. And we'll see you next week. Remind everybody, there is this meeting coming up, Plan of Conservation Development on Thursday night. There's Economic Development Committee meeting tomorrow night. And some of us have a fire department meeting on Wednesday night. So busy little town. Okay, anyway, thank you all. See you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.